miscommunication is happening more and more and more in the world today because the listener won't speak up and say, hey, you don't make sense. When you're reading body language, you are looking for a movement that indicates a message. It's a message. Now, what does that, what are you trying to tell me, Kirk? And I'm going to go, okay, let me show you. Message is one part of the communication. It's one part. So if I try to base the message off of one body language move, I'm only going to get part of the story. What I want to do is I want to find a couple messages so that I can be able to get the whole story. Because I want to put this together. I want to be able to go, oh, I saw that, I saw that, I saw that, and that equals the message. So once I see one message, I'm not quite sure if it's a confusion signal or if it's a thinking signal. So I'm still kind of watching to see what this is actually meaning, because there's different options. So I can't jump to a conclusion too fast because I'm still new at interpretation. And that's the direction you want to come from, is you want to tell yourself, hey, I'm probably 20% accurate on reading body language, and I got to work at this. A dangerous assumption that people have is that they're accurate with little skill, with little training. I actually don't understand why body language is not taught in school. It is such a huge piece. I have my theories of why it's not taught in school, because it would make people so much more precise in their listening skills that they could catch liars faster and they could catch information faster. And I think it's actually removed so that it causes us to be dumbed down as human beings. I really do. I really believe that we are restricted from learning about how to read body language so that we are dumbed down. Now, I'm not going to go into all my backing on that, but if you dumb the people down that they can't see the truth, well, then they don't know the truth. So I think there's something going on there, but I'm not going to get into it. But I really think it's intentional, because people who know how to read body language see what's going on. And we pick up on what the truth is. Because when you know the truth, you can make better decisions. But if you don't know the truth, you make a worse decision, and then you end up losing. Anyway, back to what we're talking about here. Let's say somebody is pulling their ear. They are very interested, they're listening, or on the other end of the spectrum, they lack understanding and they can't hear what you're talking about. So if somebody pulls on their ear, I mean, there is opposite ends of the spectrum, and there's anywhere in between. Winking, everybody thinks that winking is flirtatious, it's playful. Sometimes people have a twitch in their eye, and that actually twitches, and it's because they are being critical. So it's like, there's such a big difference. Okay, let's look at nose rubbing. When somebody rubs their nose, they could have this brand new thought cross their mind, and it causes them to rub their nose. Or on the other end, they rub their nose because they doubt what's being said. So it's like new thought or doubt. You misinterpret that, you'll be way far off, right? Okay, eye rolling. You know how parents will say, don't roll your eyes at me. Now, usually that's somebody in the family rolling their eyes, right? But rolling your eyes, there is a moment in time where rolling your eyes, you're actually looking for information. It's actually a thought process. But over here, you're on the other end, you could be saying, I have nothing for you, and I don't see this conversation of having any value, and I'm done with you. So again, opposite ends of the spectrum. I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but you're starting to get the idea of the fact that there is a spectrum. And so if somebody tries to tell you this equals this, that's a good intention to teach you, but now you know the rest of the story that, oh, if you scratch your head, it means you're thinking. Okay, that's good. And it also could mean this. And so if the person who's training you about body language doesn't give you a spectrum of options, they are not really training you. They're entertaining you. Because there's some people who try to teach body language who are doing it to look good and try to entertain people or trying to help, but they just don't know the deeper version of how this all works. Okay, so this is what you do. Now let me go here and show you how this works, because I give respect to everybody who's trying to teach that's out there. But if they only give you one answer, you might want to go help them so that we're giving the deeper version here. Because if we don't empower the people with understanding the spectrum, then they're not going to get good at it. There is no one answer for one move. All right, so here's the chart. Here's the process. So you're talking to somebody, listen to the words and watch the movements. So you're observing someone, you're having a conversation with somebody. And what you're doing while you're watching is you're watching the movements, listening to the words. Your next step is to look at this and go, okay, do they match? Does this match? And if they match, you just move right along with the conversation. And you're questioning, to see if they match. If they don't match, I had to probably just put like another little, if they match, just go back to listening. There we go. Okay, so if they match, boom, you just stay with it, keep paying attention the whole time. But if they don't match, go this way. So if the words and the movement doesn't match, which one do you give attention to? You want to watch the gesture. It has more truth in it. The gesture has more truth than what they say. So if they don't match the gesture and what they say, the gesture is what you want to pay attention to. So then when you see the gesture, you want to come up with two opposite options. That's what this is about. Two opposite options. Well, it could mean this, or it could mean this. So you want to go to the extremes. An extreme of good and an extreme of bad. And know that there's anything in between that it could be. So that's what this point is talking about, is come up with two opposite options of what this gesture may mean or what the gesture is saying. Now, with those two in your mind, oops, I keep clicking on that. Hold on just a second. With that gesture in your mind, because they scratch their head, you're in this mode of going, okay, there either are, I've stimulated thinking or I've created confusion. So now because you have two options of what it could be, then what happens is you now are in a place that you need to clarify. You need to clarify. And so how do you clarify? You ask questions. So now you move to the next step because you have, two different options that it could be, and you can't quite tell which one it is. And you can't pick up on any other signals that would help you understand what it is. So then you go to this step and it says clarify, seek for understanding, ask a question to see if your impression was on or off. All right, I got to add one more step in here. Instead of just saying it, I'm going to add it because I know you're going to take a picture of this. I want to make sure the picture's good for you. Wait for it. Wait for it. There we go. There we go. I know it's a simple step, but it's an important step. Okay, here we go. So listen to the words, watch the movements. Do they match? Yes. Okay, go this way. All right, I better put this over here. That's the yes way. And then this would be the no. No. Okay, I think that looks better. Okay, there we go. Listen to the words, watch the movements. Do they match? Yes. Okay, go back to listening. No? All right, what's the gesture saying? So you're like looking at them scratching their head going, okay, what does it mean when they scratch their head? Maybe you have this paper folded up in your pocket. Maybe you've been studying it and you're like, oh, they're scratching their head. Okay, so it means either they're thinking or clear on the other end, they're confused. So then you have two options. Okay, it's either this or this. Then choose one. Because what you're going to do is you're going to test it to see if it's right. Choose one and you're going to test it to see if it's right. And the way you do that, so like, let's say I choose they're confused. So now I'm like, okay, option is they either are thinking or they're confused because they're scratching their head, but I'm going to test the confusion. Now I'm going to give you like a pro tip. A pro tip is test the negative. It'll give you a faster response from the individual instead of testing the positive. Test the negative, and I'll explain that to you. So I then come up with two opposites. Okay, they're thinking or they're confused. I'm going to test the negative of I've confused them. So now I'm going to ask a question to see if my impression was on or off. And my impression is they could be confused. So at this point, I would say, hey, did I confuse you? And if I didn't, then they would say, no, you didn't confuse me. I'm like totally like really into this. So if I was off, like they're not confused, back off. So now I'm not going to go with confusion. I'm going to now be able to go, okay, they must be on the other end then of their thinking. I go, oh, so you're just really deeply thinking about this. Oh, yeah. Okay, back to listening. Now, they have no idea why I asked the question if they were confused. They have no idea I saw them scratch their head. But I don't want to move on in the discussion if they're confused. Because if they're confused and I keep talking, we're going right into miscommunication. We're going to have a mess if I keep talking and they're confused. So because I'm watching for signals and I saw the scratching head, I could check in and go, are they confused or they're really into this? And so then I then pose the question, hey, are you confused? I'm testing the negative. That usually gives me the biggest response. And if it's a no, well, then if I was off, then it's like, no, okay, that's not it. And I'm like, oh, so then I can test the other side and go, oh, so are you just deeply into this? Yeah, I'm totally into this. Okay, cool. And then I go back to watching and observing. Now let's say we go 5 more minutes in the discussion and I'm sharing, and they scratch their head again. Do I do the same thing again? Heck yeah. If they're scratching their head again, I'll go, oh, so are you still okay? Or did I mess you up here? And they're like, no, you're good, man. This is great. And it's like, oh, all right. So I pose the question again, but I never. Let me just take this with me. Copy, post this, paste, never. Never expose what you, or reveal. Never reveal what you are. Signals you see. Never. How often? Never. You see this? Never. Because if I'm in this process and they're talking and I see them scratch their head and I'm like, okay, what's going on? And I'm like, okay, they're thinking or they're confused. And if I say out loud, hey, Tom, you scratched your head, it means you're either confused or you're thinking. Which one is it? If I say that out loud, they're going to get creeped out. They're going to get creeped out. How do I know they're going to get creeped out? Because I've creeped people out before. I've made a bunch of mistakes in the beginning, creeped people out, and then they just shut down and they quit talking to me. So you don't want to creep people out. Let me just put that there. You will creep them out. You will creep them out. You'll creep them out. Don't creep them out, because then they just shut down on you. Okay, so don't ever tell what you see. You want to be a ninja at this. Like nobody knows you're there. Nobody knows you got the skill. Okay. So Kirk, what do you do if they're like, yeah, I am confused. Okay, you're confused. So now I need to go back to watching and listening now, but now we're going to go down the confusion trail. Oh, so help me understand, where did I lose you in this process? Oh, well, when you were talking about this, you totally lost me and I didn't even know what you're talking about. Can you do that over again? So whatever they say, if it's confusion, or let's just go back over here. If it's confusion from the head scratching says they're confused, or the face rubbing says they're overwhelmed, or the fingers in their mouth says that they're holding back. If it's any of these, I don't just skip that and then go back to talking. I need to go down that road and go, oh, you're overwhelmed. Let's talk about that. How can I help you? Or, oh, you're confused. Let's fix that. Because I'm trying to correct the communication and get us back on the same page.